JBN, we keep you informed. 2 killed in disputes in St. Mary within 2 hours on Friday. The St. Mary police are probing the killing of 2 men in separate incidents within a 2-hour period in the districts of Lewistor and Cromwell Land on Friday night. A suspect in one of the killings that reportedly involved a fuss over work done on a house has been apprehended by the police and is to be questioned by investigators. The deceased have been identified as 36-year-old Delroy Williams of Lewistor District and 55-year-old Paul Forrest of Highgate, both in St. Mary. In the first incident, Williams and another man were both chopped by unknown assailants in Lewistor. Reports are that sometime after 9 p.m., the 2 men were traveling on a motorcycle in the community when they were attacked by men armed with machetes. Further reports are that Williams tried to elude his attackers, but was chased and chopped several times. The other man sustained a chop wound to his hand by the attackers, who later fled from the scene. The police were alerted, and both wounded men were assisted to the hospital, where Williams was pronounced dead and the other man was treated. At about 11 p.m., Forrest was allegedly stabbed by a man who had earlier employed him to carry out work at the man's home. The man was reportedly not satisfied with the work that had been done and confronted Forrest on a section of the roadway in Cromwell Land. The dispute reportedly escalated when the man used a sharp implement to stab Forrest twice to the upper body. Forrest was assisted to the hospital, where he died while undergoing treatment. The suspect was subsequently apprehended by the police. Child killer sentenced to life in prison. Jason Gray, a 26-year-old tattoo artist of Hague Settlement in Trelawney, was sentenced to life in prison on Friday for the murder of 2 St. James children. He will be eligible for parole after serving 29 years. On his last appearance in court, Gray pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder and abduction in the case of 10-year-old Melika Mitchell and 12-year-old Omari Sterling on July 13, 2014. Both children, who attended the Albion Primary School in Montego Bay, had accompanied other family members to the dump-up beach in the second city. While there, Gray reportedly lured both children away with the promise of buying them a meal at a nearby fast food outlet. He then took Omari and Melika away in his motor car. The children's bodies were discovered in the Martha Bay River in Trelawney 2 days later. Witnesses who saw what transpired gave the police a full description of the abductor. Devona Carr, Melika's mother, said that she was satisfied that justice has been served and was also pleased that her daughter's killer had been sentenced to life in prison. Carr said, however, that she would have preferred that he received the death sentence. Shooting victim was a relative of a wanted man. A grief-stricken Claudia McNeil fought to overcome emotions as she attempted to paint a picture of the unbreakable bond she had with her deceased daughter, 28-year-old Shona K. Ebanks, who was shot and killed at her home on 4th Street in Trenchtown, Kingston, around 3 a.m. on Sunday. Armed thugs allegedly kicked open the door to Ebanks' home at 24th Street, pumping bullets into her and her boyfriend, Demarley Hall. According to residents, the couple's slaying may have been a reprisal for the murder of a woman from the same street just hours before. The first incident occurred around midnight. That victim was said to be a relative of a man alias Short Boss, who is wanted by the police. A source alleged that the woman was shot and killed in a crossfire between rival gangs. Residents were peeved at the fact that although a state of public emergency checkpoint is located a short distance away on Collie Smith Drive, the killers managed to escape. The residents also pointed to the frequent patrolling of the security forces, which they believe is all for nothing. It feel like me I go mad, me can't manage it. Me never know this would come on my doorstep, a heartbroken McNeil said, telling of how her dimpled daughter was always jovial and peaceful. When me go identify her, she have pure hole in her face. She did with her mouth and her eyes open. She was only in her panties because her bed she did in her, said the distressed mother. 238 Jamaicans return from far-flung countries. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Kamina Johnson Smith, says Jamaicans and dependents from several far-flung countries returned to the island yesterday on a miracle flight. The 238 passengers are returning from China, Indonesia, Japan, Thailand, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, Tanzania, and the United Kingdom. The minister made the announcement on Twitter yesterday. She thanked the ambassadors and the teams, including the Jam COVID team, diplomatic representatives of relevant countries, airlines, and travel agents who made the flight happen. Many persons mistakenly think that Jamaica's borders have been the only issue for our nationals overseas. But border closures and travel restrictions still exist globally, and commercial flights are irregular. Add small numbers of limited means far apart in each country, the minister said in a tweet. Thanks again to my incredible team and everyone who made this #miracle flight a reality. There is always more to be done, but my heart is feeling much lighter this morning as 238 nationals and dependents, including 4 babies from far-flung countries, are on their way home, she said. Sharp increase in minors under 10 being raped. Sexual abuse among children, as young as 2 years old, has increased due to the COVID-19 lockdown, noted a Clarendon medical practitioner who labeled some of the cases as very vicious. Dr. Bradley Edwards, senior medical officer at the Maple Hospital, said he's quite concerned about the growing number of minors believed to have been raped or sexually molested during the stay-at-home measures implemented to curb the spread of the virus. If you look at the statistics involving children, most of the rape cases are between the ages 10 and 14, but our cases right now are in the 2 to 10-year-old age group. Those cases would only see once in a blue moon, but we are now seeing a sharp increase in the last month, Edwards shared. For the whole year, we'd probably have 1 or 2 cases involving this age group, but now we have seen at least 9 cases in 1 month. We're not used to seeing those numbers, and it is very alarming. Some of the cases are vicious, very vicious, noting that almost a dozen children have been admitted to hospital for sexual abuse in the last month. He pointed out that in addition to the psychological trauma, some children also suffer irreparable physical damage. Because of the COVID-19, the children are at home longer with the perpetrator, he charged, noting that the hospital has been working with the police to investigate the cases. Edwards' concerns followed local and international reports about an increase in child abuse, as well as the number of children who have gone missing during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to children's advocate group Hear the Children's Cry, at least 33 minors have been reported missing to that office since schools were suspended in March. The corporate area, St. Anne, St. Elizabeth, and St. Mary have reported the most missing cases. In May, Osborne Bailey, head of the Ministry of Justice's Victim Services Division, noted that the number of sex crimes against children was rivaling those committed against adults in that month. The division has offered counseling to an increased number of victims over the period. Overall, the trend has been that these children become victims, usually through those closest to them. So if a child becomes a victim of, say, rape, it is very rare that it is a complete stranger. It is somebody in the home, somebody related to the child, Bailey stated then, sparking backlash from the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, which claimed that the numbers did not reflect in its statistics. The preliminary data for March 2020 shows a 27.6% reduction in the number of reports received compared to the previous month. Overall, there was an 8.8% reduction in the number of reports received during January to March when compared to the corresponding period in 2019, responded the CPFSA. However, according to Edwards, CPFSA's numbers are not in sync with the realities on the ground. For them, it is a regular number, and so there is no obvious change with them. But it is a change for us who are seeing the cases at the hospital. When I look at it, I see COVID-19 as the cause, he posited. Phillips accuses PM of shielding Vaz, wants investigation into Hollywell controversy. Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips has accused Prime Minister Andrew Holness of shielding his embattled cabinet minister Darrell Vaz, who was recently stripped of his environment portfolio responsibilities following revelation of a controversial offer to lease lands bordering the Hollywell National Forest Park for development. The park, in rural St. Andrew, is part of the Blue and Drunker Mountains, which is protected and recognized as a World Heritage Site. Vaz said that he knew the sensitivity of his position in government when he offered to lease the lands to build a private cabin. He was forced to come public following a report in which the caretakers of the park raised concerns that the National Land Agency, NLA, was leasing lands within the buffer zone of the Blue and Drunker Mountains National Park. The NLA buckled under public pressure and has, without explanation so far, withdrawn the offer to lease the lands for 25 years at $120,000 per annum. Speaking yesterday at the People's National Party PNP Council's retreat at the Michael College University in Kingston, Dr. Phillips asserted that Holness has been shielding Vaz despite the numerous red flags being raised about his conduct in government. The minister was not only named in the problem with bushing, but was named in relation to the disgraceful sale of Jamaican people's assets in Ochariah's Rooms Hotel scandal, and then he's named again in the Hollywell scandal. Vaz has since been placed in charge of water and housing, but Phillips is dissatisfied. He argued that the shift was not a sanction against Vaz. He indicated that if he did not get back his visa, he would resign. There has been no resignation. The Prime Minister cannot be silent, Phillips declared. He called for the Prime Minister to say whether an investigation had been launched into Vaz's role in the Hollywell controversy. This occurrence is taking place after one minister has had to resign from the Ministry of Energy and another minister has been charged and is before the court. This can't go so. Them money are different. It cannot go so, Phillips asserted while shaking his head. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.